this is the part they never warn you about. You can shop for a dress and accidentally walk out supporting animal testing, all because of the cute beauty extras sitting in your cart. Most people expect fast fashion to be cheap and messy. Maybe a crooked seam, a weird zipper, a top that looks better online than in real life. But what shoppers don't expect is that some of these same stores quietly sell beauty products tied to animal testing loopholes. And they don't exactly put that on the product page. And it matters, because when a store becomes a one-stop shop for fashion and beauty, it doesn't just sell you clothes, it shapes what you trust. Sometimes it's not even the clothing brand testing anything. It's the beauty brands they stock, the markets they sell into, and the fine print that turns cruelty-free into a slippery marketing word instead of a promise. So today we're doing a countdown: 10 clothing stores and fashion brands. From the fast fashion sites you scroll at, 2 a.m. to the premium names people swear are ethical, and we're separating the branding from the reality. Some are going to shock you, some will disappoint you, and a couple might actually surprise you in a good way. So before you buy that harmless perfume or lip product, let's start the countdown and expose what these clothing stores don't tell you. Number 10. ASOS, the marketplace loophole they don't advertise. ASOS feels like the safe place to shop. It's polished, curated, and it makes you forget you're basically speed dating thousands of products at 2 a.m. You go in for jeans, you end up in the beauty section like, sure, throw in a lip oil, I deserve joy. But here's the part ASOS doesn't shout from the homepage. When a fashion retailer becomes a beauty retailer, it also becomes an ethics gatekeeper. And sometimes that gate is wide open. On ASOS's own customer care page, they admit something most shoppers never expect to read. Some countries still require animal testing to be carried out for cosmetics, and that means some beauty brands sold through ASOS, especially brands that sell through other channels, may still be testing on animals if local market regulations require it. In plain English, you can buy a product on ASOS that looks totally harmless and still be indirectly connected to animal testing, depending on where that brand does business. And since beauty products sit on your skin, lips, and eyes for hours, I didn't know stops feeling like a small thing. This is why people get mad. The checkout experience makes everything feel equally approved. Same site, same cart, same box on your doorstep. Your brain assumes the store's standards apply across the board. But ASOS is basically saying, it depends. That it depends is the loophole. It's the corporate equivalent of, don't ask me what I was doing at 3 a.m. It's not a confession of wrongdoing. It's a warning that the ethical label isn't automatic just because the product is sold on a trendy retailer. So if you've ever thought, I'm not buying from a sketchy site, I'm buying from ASOS, this is your reminder. The platform isn't the product's moral shield. You still need to know what you're buying and who you're buying it from. And once you realize a retailer can sell you a cruelty-free vibe while carrying brands with testing loopholes, number 9 gets even messier, because this next store practically builds a whole beauty aisle right next to the party dresses. Number 9. Boo-hoo, the cruelty-free label that can trick your brain. Boo-hoo is the kind of site that makes you feel like you can reinvent yourself for the price of 2 takeout meals. One minute you're browsing heels, the next you're staring at blush and skincare like, wait, since when do you sell this? Because Boohoo doesn't just sell clothes anymore. It has a full-on beauty section, makeup, skincare, hair care, even beauty electricals. It even markets itself as a destination for popular beauty brands. When a clothing site starts selling products you rub on your face, the ethical stakes change fast. Here's the sneaky part. Boohoo has a cruelty-free skincare category. That sounds comforting, like a guarantee. You see the words, and your brain instantly goes, cool, safe enough. But a category page is not the same thing as proof. It's a filter, it's a label, and labels can be generous. Scroll that cruelty-free category, and you'll see third-party brands listed, which means Boohoo is curating and hosting, not necessarily manufacturing. That's not automatically bad, but it does mean the responsibility gets blurry. If a shopper assumes Boohoo is cruelty-free, they might stop checking brand by brand, because the site design gives them permission to relax. And regulators actually care about how these claims are made. The UK's advertising guidance says that if you claim you don't test on animals, that claim shouldn't just mean we personally didn't do it. It also needs to reflect ingredient sourcing and supplier practices. Otherwise, it's misleading. This is why people feel played. A 6-pound lipstick feels harmless, especially when it's going on your face daily. But if the cruelty-free promise is fuzzy, you're buying an ethical story that might not be as clean as it looks in the product photo. And unlike a dress, you can't return irritation or regret. Number 9 matters because it shows how fast fashion can quietly become fast beauty. And once that happens, you can't judge the ethics by the clothes rack anymore. Now let's move to number 8, where the brand name is everywhere, the products are viral, and the excuses get even smoother. Number 8, Pretty Little Thing, the cruelty-free edit that can lull you to sleep. Pretty Little Thing is the kind of site that feels like a digital shopping mall with mood lighting. You go in for a quick look, black out for 10 minutes, and wake up with 3 dresses and a tracking number. But here's what PLT doesn't make painfully obvious. Once a fashion store starts selling beauty, it starts selling trust, and trust is the easiest thing to monetize. PLT has an entire page dedicated to cruelty-free and vegan makeup. The language is so confident. It reads like, your beauty routine is personal, make it count. Like you're about to make an ethical decision and get a flawless base at the same time. And look, having a cruelty-free edit isn't a bad thing. The problem is what it does to your brain, because once you see that label, your guard drops. You start assuming the store has done the homework for you. You stop checking ingredients, suppliers, brand policies, parent companies, all the stuff nobody has time to research at 1 a.m. You think, okay, cool, PLT gets it. But then you look at PLT's general beauty section, and they openly say they stock a range of much-loved brands. And they even name-check big mainstream companies. That's where the confusion creeps in. One part of the site is dressed up like an ethics zone, while the wider beauty aisle is still a mixed bag. So the T isn't that PLT is secretly doing animal tests in a warehouse. It's that the site layout can make cruelty-free feel like a vibe instead of a verification process. And if you're a shopper who's trying to avoid animal testing, vibes are not enough. Vibes don't protect animals. Policies do. This is why these retailers get side-eyed. They can sell you a curated, good choices corner while still profiting from the broader beauty market. It's ethical window dressing, and most people won't notice unless they actively go looking. And if number 8 is about how a cruelty-free label can relax you too early, number 7 is even messier because it's the same fast fashion energy, just with a different name and the same slippery beauty aisle. Number 7, Nasty Gal, the filter that makes you think you're safe. Nasty Gal's entire brand is attitude, bold outfits, chaotic confidence, I'm the main character energy. And now it's also skincare, makeup removers, serums, tanning products, the kind of stuff you're putting directly on your skin and trusting to be, not shady. Here's what makes Nasty Gal tricky. It has a cruelty-free skincare category sitting right there in the filters like it's a clean stamp of approval. And at a glance, that's all shoppers need. The label does the work. Your brain goes, great, problem solved, except a category filter is not a certification. It's not a legal guarantee. It's a sorting tool. And retailers love sorting tools because they let you feel informed without forcing the store to explain the messy details behind every brand in that section. Nasty Gal's own language around its beauty offerings leans heavily into feel-good ethics. Vegan, cruelty-free, refillable, all the right words that make you relax and keep scrolling. But cruelty-free can mean different things depending on who's saying it, and whether the brand is independently certified, how it handles suppliers, and where it sells. That's the danger with fashion retailers turning into beauty retailers. The ethics can change product by product, but the website experience makes it feel like one unified standard. It's not. It's a marketplace with a pretty filter. And if you're thinking, okay, but it's just skincare, remember, skincare is daily, repeated, close contact. If you care about avoiding animal testing, you shouldn't have to play detective in the checkout line. So, number 7 isn't about one product being bad. It's about the way fast fashion platforms can sell you a cruelty-free mood while the reality is still mixed. And the customer is the one left doing the homework. Now, number 6 is where we leave the marketplace confusion and get into brands people swear they trust until you look at the fine print. Number 6, Shein Sheglam, the twist. That makes people double take. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Shein on an animal testing video feels like a guaranteed villain arc because the brand's reputation is already, let's just say, chaotic. But here's where the story gets interesting, and why this topic is messier than people realize. Shein isn't just clothes anymore, it's beauty. And Shein's cosmetics brand, Sheglum, doesn't quietly imply cruelty-free vibes. It claims Leaping Bunny approval through Cruelty-Free International for its own brand cosmetic and personal care products. That matters because Leaping Bunny is not just a trendy label slapped on packaging. Cruelty-Free International describes its approval program as going beyond legal requirements, with supply chain checks and independent auditing baked into the standard. So, on animal testing specifically, Sheglum is basically saying, we have the paperwork. Now, here's the tea. This is exactly how shoppers get confused. People hear Shein and assume everything connected to it must be ethically questionable in every direction. Then they hear Leaping Bunny approved and swing to the opposite extreme. Like, oh, so Shein is cruelty-free now? Not necessarily, because cruelty-free approvals are about specific products and supply chains, not the entire fashion empire. And the bigger Shein gets, the more it operates like a marketplace, meaning there can be different sellers, different categories, different standards, and a lot of space for shoppers to assume the best without checking the fine print. There's also a global market reality people rarely understand. Animal testing requirements can get complicated depending on where products are sold and how they're registered. Leaping Bunny even has a China qualification program to help certified companies enter the Chinese marketplace while remaining compliant with cruelty-free standards, because regulations have shifted under certain conditions. That doesn't mean everything is fine everywhere, but it does show you how technical and loophole heavy this world is. So, number 6 isn't here because Sheglum is caught testing. It's here because it proves the biggest point of this whole video. You cannot judge animal testing ethics by a brand's vibe or reputation. Some brands with clean images hide behind loopholes. Some brands you assume are the worst show up with certifications, at least for specific product lines. And if Sheglum is the twist that makes people pause, number 5 is even more embarrassing for the fashion industry because it's the bargain store nobody expects to have its act together. Number 5, Primark. Pes Beauty, the bargain brand that walked in with receipts. Primark is not the store people associate with strict standards. Primark is the place you enter for socks and exit with a candle, a hoodie, 2 hair clips, and somehow a suitcase you didn't plan on buying. It's chaos, it's cheap, it's impulsive, which is why this next part hits like whiplash. Primark has a dedicated page stating it is Leaping Bunny approved, and that all of its own brand cosmetic and personal care products are approved under the Cruelty-Free International Leaping Bunny program. And Cruelty-Free International positions Leaping Bunny as an approval program that goes beyond legal requirements relating to animal testing. On the specific topic of animal testing for Primark's own brand beauty, they're saying, we're not playing the cruelty-free word game. We got verified. And that's important, because cheap beauty is where shoppers often assume corners are cut. A 3-pound mascara feels harmless until you remember what cruelty-free is actually about. Not just the finished product, but the ingredients, the suppliers, the chain of accountability. Primark is claiming that for its own brand cosmetic and personal care lines, those checks are part of the deal. Now, here's the part I'm going to say out loud because brands love when people don't. This doesn't automatically make Primark a saint. This is not a blanket halo over everything the company does. This is one ethical lane, animal testing, and one category, Primark's own brand cosmetics and personal care. But it still exposes something uncomfortable. Some retailers are perfectly happy to let cruelty-free be a vibe, a filter, a marketing phrase that means whatever you want it to mean. And that brings us to the next phase of the countdown, where we leave the surprisingly certified corner and step into brands that customers assume are ethical because they look classy, expensive, and clean. But the cruelty-free story starts getting a lot harder to defend. Number 4, Victoria's Secret, the glam empire, with a very ugly footnote. Victoria's Secret isn't just lingerie, it's a whole fantasy package. Satin, confidence, glossy catalogs, and that signature cloud of perfume you can recognize from 3 aisles away. And that's exactly why this one hits people so hard, because the brand's vibe is pure luxury. Treat yourself. feel unstoppable. But here's what most shoppers don't realize when they grab a body mist, perfume, or lotion at checkout. PETA lists Victoria's Secret as not cruelty-free, and they don't mince words about why. According to PETA, Victoria's Secret does test on animals, whether that's directly through suppliers or by outsourcing it to a third party. They also note that some brands in this category may sell in regions where animal testing is legally required. That sentence is basically the corporate version of "it's complicated," except the complicated part can involve animals. And this is where customers feel played, because Victoria's Secret sells the feeling of being upgraded, like you're stepping into a better version of yourself. But the beauty side of the brand operates in a world where testing and compliance can be hidden behind supply chains, third parties, and legal loopholes. PETA even explains that companies can end up on the do test list for multiple reasons, including ingredient testing, third-party testing, or failing to assure PETA that they don't conduct animal tests. So it's not just about one lab somewhere. It's about a brand choosing systems where the customer can't easily tell what's happening behind the curtain. And that's why this matters to you. Because a lot of people don't buy Victoria's Secret beauty products as cosmetics. They buy them as identity, as confidence, as a scent they associate with big nights, dates, vacations, or feeling like the main character. But if the fantasy is built on suffering that you'd never sign off on if you saw it clearly, then the pretty bottle suddenly feels not so pretty. And if number 4 is the mainstream shocker, number 3 is the one people really don't expect because it hides behind a sleek, minimalist reputation. Number 3, Calvin Klein Cosmetics, the clean brand that isn't cruelty-free. Calvin Klein is the brand people associate with simplicity, clean lines, minimalist ads, that effortless, I woke up like this energy. Except you absolutely did not wake up like that. You spent 45 minutes achieving effortless, and that's why Calvin Klein cosmetics and fragrance products slide under the radar. They don't look like they belong in a scandal video. They look like the responsible grown-up choice, the type of perfume you buy when you're trying to stop buying random body sprays that smell like sugar and chaos. But according to PETA, Calvin Klein Cosmetics is not cruelty-free. Just like with Victoria's Secret, PETA's listing states the brand does test on animals, either directly, through suppliers, or through third parties, and notes that some brands may sell in regions where animal testing is legally mandated. And this is where the trick really works on customers. The Calvin Klein name is attached to a fashion identity polished, classy, premium, so people assume the ethics are equally polished. But cosmetics are not like shirts. They're regulated differently, sourced differently, and pushed through compliance systems that can create loopholes big enough for cruelty to slip through. PETA's own explanation of why companies end up on the do test list makes it even clearer. It can involve final product testing, ingredient testing, third-party suppliers, or simply not giving the assurance required. So even if a brand's marketing whispers clean, the behind-the-scenes reality can be far messier. That's why shoppers get furious, because the customer isn't told any of this at the counter. You're sold a scent, a mood, a lifestyle, not the fine print. And now we're entering the top 2 brands that are even closer to everyday shopping than people realize. Because number 2 isn't niche, and it isn't subtle. It's a brand people gift, wear, and swear by, without ever questioning what's happening behind the label. Number 2, Marc Jacobs Fragrances, the cute perfume. Brand with a not-so-cute backstory. Marc Jacobs fragrances are everywhere. They're the bottles people display like decor. They're the safe gift you grab when you don't know what scent someone likes. They're the perfume counter classic that feels playful and harmless, daisy, flowers, glossy ads, big main character energy. But here's what doesn't show up in the campaign photos. PETA lists Marc Jacobs fragrances as not cruelty-free and says the brand does test on animals, either directly, through suppliers, or by outsourcing it to a third party. PETA also notes that brands in this category may sell in regions where animal testing is legally mandated. That's the loophole shoppers keep getting ambushed by. You think you're buying a scent, but you may be buying into a system where cruelty-free is conditional, and the conditions are never printed on the box. And here's why this one confuses people. Marc Jacobs has existed across different beauty eras and arrangements. customers hear the name and assume it's one consistent ethical stance across every product with that label. But fragrance licensing and corporate structures can create totally different policies and accountability than, say, a makeup line. So when someone says, "I thought Marc Jacobs was safe," what they usually mean is, the branding feels soft, clean, and modern, so I assume the ethics matched the aesthetic. That assumption is exactly what the industry depends on. Pretty bottle, pretty ad, and suddenly nobody asks the ugly questions. And fragrance is intimate. It's on your skin, your clothes, your pillow, your memories. That's why finding out there may be animal testing somewhere in the chain doesn't just feel like an ethical footnote, it feels like a personal betrayal. Marc Jacobs. Fragrances lands at number 2 because it's the perfect example of how animal testing can hide in the most innocent-looking aisle. It's not loud, it's not obvious, it's quietly built into global distribution choices. Now, if number 2 is the perfume people buy without thinking, number 1 is the luxury name people defend with their whole chest, right up until they see the receipts. Number 1, Gucci fragrances. Coty. Gucci is the brand people say like it's a status update. The double G logo, the runway fantasy, the "I'm not just buying perfume, I'm buying a life energy." And that's exactly why Gucci is number 1, because if any brand should be able to afford cruelty-free standards without excuses, it's this one. But PETA lists Gucci fragrances, Coty, as not cruelty-free. The wording is blunt. The brand does test on animals either directly, through suppliers, or by outsourcing it to a third party. PETA also notes that brands in this category may sell in regions where animal testing is legally mandated. Let that sink in. This isn't a tiny indie startup struggling to navigate regulations. This is a luxury giant selling a premium identity, while the ethics can still be routed through loopholes most shoppers never see. And this is why customers get furious. Gucci's branding makes people assume luxury equals better quality, better craftsmanship, better values. But animal testing doesn't care about your price tag. It cares about what a company is willing to demand from its supply chain and what it's willing to walk away from when cruelty is the easiest path. PETA's cruelty-free program says it only lists companies that have banned animal tests for any reason anywhere in the world. So if a brand lands on the not cruelty-free side, it means the assurances aren't meeting that bar. So when someone sprays Gucci as their signature scent before a date, a wedding, a job interview, they're not just buying perfume, they're buying a story. And if that story includes suffering they'd never agree to if they saw it up close, that's not glam. That's marketing with a dark backside. Gucci is number 1 because it's the symbol of this whole scandal. The prettier the bottle, the easier it is to forget what might be happening off camera. Now that you know how the game works, the real question is simple. Are you going to let branding decide your ethics? Or are you going to start checking the fine print like it matters? And that's why this matters. When fashion stores turn into beauty stores, the ethics don't automatically follow. Some brands stay vague on purpose, because vague is profitable. Clear is costly. Now I want your take. Are you surprised? Or did you already suspect this? Drop your thoughts and the next brand name in the comments. And if you're here for more investigations like this, like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend who loves a quick little beauty add-on.